Welcome to I Care, I Volunteer, a special series focusing on volunteerism in Peel Region. I'm your host, Jackie Vieira. On today's program, we'll be discussing the Newcomer Volunteer Readiness Program offered by Volunteer MBC. We will also meet with representatives from Bethel Hospice and the Canadian Red Cross. Right now, joining me from Volunteer MBC are Community Engagement Manager Shaminda Pereira and Volunteer Ambassador and a member of the Board of Directors, Sukhjit Singh. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us here.
So first, Shaminda, I'm going to ask you, because we've learned a little bit about Volunteer MBC and its various initiatives, but here we're talking about the Newcomer Volunteer Readiness Program. Can you just tell us what it is about?
Certainly. The Newcomer Volunteer Readiness Program is all about making sure that when a new immigrant comes to Canada and when they're exploring their careers and when they want to as one of the job search methods, if they are selecting to volunteer and to gain the skills, to make sure that they're comfortable, they're ready, and they know what their rights and responsibilities are when they go to volunteer. Now, we deliver this program through a series of sort of like mini workshops that we deliver through our community partners, like Newcomer settlement organizations. And it's all about making the new immigrant comfortable when they go in and volunteer.
Okay, and so this is definitely something new, because I've never heard of a volunteer program really catering to newcomers. But why was it developed?
Well, according to 2011 consensus in region of Peel itself, we have over 250,000 new immigrants, and that is almost 50% of the population. And at the same time, they are in a new place, and they're trying to adjust to the Canadian way of things. And sometimes, myself being a newcomer, I know the anxiety when I'm trying to settle down. So it's important that we welcome them, and then we make them comfortable, and then help them to go about their objectives. And volunteering is certainly one of the best ways that you can, embrace the Canadian culture and then learn about the Canadian work ethics and so on. So it was important to us to help them, and so we went about developing the program.
Okay, and so Sukhjit, I'm going to ask you specifically about the volunteering. What types of volunteer roles are available for newcomers when they come to you?
I'm picking from where Shaminda just left. This is one of the core component, which is so much of, it carries so much of value that I'm living example of that. And this is my 5th year in Canada. And I give credit to Volunteer MBC and through them, whatever the opportunity I got initially to start my first volunteer work. There are different components which are involved in terms of how a newcomer can succeed. And volunteer work is one of the most important component, which is quite often ignored. But as I said, I'm living example. I know the value it can bring to individuals' life. I came from a different country. My profession was different. If it was not Volunteer MBC's posting, which made me to apply for a facilitator position at YMCA, where I'm today, I could not have reached there. I could really see the value what volunteer work can do and what such wonderful organizations like Volunteer MBC can do in life of any newcomer. Newcomer in terms of either coming from a different country or even you are changing a city. New is, if you are new to a city, life will be a little tough. And just imagine if a person who is living, a family who's living his or her whole family somewhere else and coming to Canada and chose Peel region to live in, and without any support, how they are going to survive. So there are referral programs which Volunteer MBC they do offer. They have wonderful database, huge database, and they have strong partnership with other nonprofit organizations where there are different ways to do it. The best way is go to the website, and there is a small button on the right hand side which says I want to volunteer. You go there, and based on your skill set, and your availability. You can specifically say that this is my availability, and you will get those postings. And that is one way to go for it. And they do have information and referral specialist which sits at Volunteer MBC's headquarters. You can go in person. We do have 2 locations in Mississauga, in Brampton, and in one day in a week we go to Bolton, I believe. So Bolton Library. And there you can talk to either staff from Volunteer MBC, or you can also email Volunteer MBC when you see this is a certain posting which is matching with your skill set. And if you go to the database, it's wonderful, wonderful in terms of the way it is developed. And they have app available now on Volunteer MBC website. So it is one-stop shop.
Yeah.
I say it because I know the value. I personally lived, and I'm still living that life. That is how you see me now from Volunteer Ambassador, which I still play the role, and now I am one of the board of directors there at Volunteer MBC. This is where I see, as a newcomer, I can put value, because this is the best way to civically engage yourself if you are new to this country. And I learned this from Volunteer MBC, and I always say thank you, because I learned from Volunteer MBC that volunteerism is a core Canadian value. I always say I never miss any of our parents without mentioning this. This is a core Canadian value, because people are coming from different cultures. Maybe they do volunteer in their country of origin, in their cultures, in their own silos, but on the broader sense, volunteerism and being Canadian, these are 2 things which goes hand in hand.
Yes.
And Volunteer MBC is one of the best organizations. And I believe in Peel region, we are the only one organization which actually matches with the skill set and the availability of a position which is on volunteer basis. And I am not sure how many, but I only know that every single organization is somehow associated with Volunteer MBC, and they have a huge database in terms of those who are looking for positions and those who offer those volunteer positions.
So I'm wondering, because when you are a newcomer and you come to this country, sometimes you may not be familiar with, you know, the English language, or if you're in Quebec, maybe French. But what does Volunteer MBC perhaps do for a newcomer who perhaps their English isn't the strongest? Is there any services for them?
Well, not directly through Volunteer MBC, but most of our community partners, our member organizations, right now we have over 180 organizations, but most of them, they do have the family literacy programs, and they also have volunteer opportunities where the staff itself are geared to support them in, to use their mother tongue, but also to help them through the English language. And I know for a fact that volunteers who generally go into an organization, and when they give their wealth of experience, to as a internationally trained professional, they are moving around with the other volunteers and the other staff. So the interaction itself is an opportunity to build up your English language skills.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And also, just mention once again, where can people go to get more information about Volunteer MBC?
Yep, so there are 2 ways. One is through our website, www.volunteermbc.org. All you need to remember is the top right-hand side of our home screen. That's where the I Want to Volunteer button is. And also, those are always open through our centers in Mississauga, Brampton and Caledon, where we will sit with you, explore your strengths, your objectives, and your likes, and even something that you want to learn. And then we will match you with the opportunity that is an ideal fit for you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me today and sharing all this information with us. We are just going to take a short break right now, but we'll be back with more on I Care, I Volunteer. Welcome back to I Care, I Volunteer. I'm your host, Jackie Vieira. Here with me now is Tashita Majumdar, the Volunteer Program Coordinator at Bethel Hospice. Thank you for joining me, Tashita.
Thank you. Thank you for taking me in.
Oh, of course.
Jackie.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Bethel Hospice for some viewers, actually, who may not be aware of where it is and what services it offers people.
Yeah, Bethel Hospice is actually, I believe it's the only hospice agency here in the region of Peel, which has residential program. This is the only hospice service where you have people who can come and stay. It's almost like a hospital scenario, alternate to a hospital scenario, but you feel more at home, where you can, have peace and harmony, and people there, the staff there are very, very open. They are very welcoming to every community. And the fact that it is located in Caledon, it's actually in Inglewood. It serves almost around 48% of the Brampton community, and the rest is again Mississauga, as well as the other regions, even parts of Caledon. So it's one of those places where you have people living who are suffering from life-threatening illness, and who would like to live life the way they would want to live.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's wonderful that we have a center like that,
yes.
Catering to people towards near the end of their lives. I'm wondering, because the foundation actually offers a new program that you're here to talk about, which is the South Asian Project. Can you tell us about that, please?
Oh yes, actually Bethel Hospice runs quite a few programs. Some of them are bereavement program, care support group program. And we have recently launched this South Asian program. This is based on, a survey which was done last year. Actually, the South Asian program is now in its second phase, and this is the first year in the second phase. It's a 3-year program, and based on the need assessment that was done last year, they realized that it is this community which has a different way of looking at hospice. In fact, many a times I've encountered when I have, interacted with people, they are a little confused as to what hospice is all about. They confuse it with hospital, or at times they just don't know what it is all about. So it is to raise that awareness and create that, promote the fact that the government is, has realized the need for this sort of a program to be there, and encourage people to make use of the services that come through this. The fact that South Asian community has its own uniqueness. I always equate it to the gummies that you find in a box, the different flavors of gummies that you find in a box. Though they may be different, but they all conform to each other. So South Asian community is a similar one, where you have people from different faith, different religion, different background, but different parts of the world, and especially Canada is a platform. It's an ideal platform for people from all sectors who have come here, and now that they are living, it's many generations who have lived here, and of course a lot of people who are coming in also. So it's just to help them, settle in life, and also help the seniors or the older generation, or people who are, not well, to settle in case they have some services where they need volunteers or people who would like to care for them, who can care for them. This is a perfect place, perfect platform for that.
And have you noticed in your role there, have you noticed perhaps an increase in the number of, I guess you could say, residents coming in? Because there is such a large baby boomer population now, and that perhaps the need is...
Oh yes, Canada, as we all know, has an aging population. Yes, that's there. But the fact that this South Asian program is one where we are trying to educate people on the fact, especially the South Asian community, about the fact that this program is there. So make use of it. When you talk about, increase, presently we have, if I'm not mistaken, a capacity of around 10 to 12 beds. So, and it again is through CCAC that the whole process, the assessment process takes place. We are trying to work out things and ensure that we can have a capacity building, not only in terms of the physical infrastructure, but also the human asset part of it. And that's what this project is all about.
Okay, and I'm wondering what types of roles are available for volunteers at Bethel Hospice, I guess specifically in the South Asian project.
Okay. This particular project, since it is geared towards the needs of people who are suffering or who are at the end of their life illness. So there are various needs that a person has. It could be emotional, it could be psychological, it could be spiritual. So if there is a volunteer, ideally it could be anyone who has a compassion, who is wanting to help others. But then yes, there are a lot of people from the nursing sector, from the medicine sector or social service sector who could come and volunteer. You could volunteer in any part. Bethel Hospice, especially Bethel Hospice, is known for its volunteer bank, I would call it, because it actually runs most of the services that are there runs on volunteers. So you have people volunteering at the kitchen, you have people volunteering for landscaping, you have people coming in volunteering for you have this additional services in terms of therapy that is given. So you have people volunteering for that. Though you have registered nurses, registered PSW people working there, but you have volunteers who also provide these services. So the service which is provided is for the residents, but through the South Asian program, we are trying to reach out to the community and go and do in-home visits, because especially amongst the South Asian population, considering the cultural competencies and all, people are a little hesitant to move to a different place. Everyone wants to die at home. So through this project, we are trying to reach out to those people and provide them that care and service at home.
Well, thank you, and that's tremendous that they're doing that at Bethel Hospice. And I'd just like to thank you, Tashita, for being here. And right now, we will just take a short break, but we'll be right back on more I Care, I Volunteer. Welcome back. I'm joined now in studio with the coordinator for disaster management for the Canadian Red Cross Ontario Zone, Sarah Oberholzer. Beside her is Basil Alassi and Yazid Khandra. They're disaster management volunteer responders. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
So first, Sarah, I'm actually going to go to you because we want to learn more about the disaster management program operated by the Canadian Red Cross. What can you tell us about it?
So this is a national program that we run in communities all across Canada. And disaster responders are highly trained volunteers who help out after emergencies like fires, floods, or even large-scale evacuations in a community. They meet with the affected persons, usually within the first couple hours after a disaster happens, and they provide them with short-term emergency supplies like clothing, food, and lodging.
Oh, I see. Okay. And so how did the Canadian Red Cross actually get connected with Volunteer MBC?
Our Volunteer Resources Department connected with someone from the organization, and so we've been able to use the website as a really great recruiting tool for volunteers.
I see. Okay. And because specifically this program is discussing newcomers, what type of roles are available to newcomers within the Canadian Red Cross, specifically the disaster management program?
So the disaster management program is open to anyone who wants to volunteer over the age of 18 years old. And the opportunities are, as a volunteer responder, you would help out with small-scale emergencies as well as large-scale emergencies around the Greater Toronto Area and surrounding communities as well. So it's helping those affected persons as well as being in the community, helping deliver presentations, workshops, those kinds of roles.
Okay. And now I'm going to speak with you gentlemen. You guys are both newcomers to Canada. Basil, how long have you been here, and why volunteer?
Actually, I was a volunteer before in the Syrian Red Crescent there, and I worked there for many years with them, and also I worked with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies in the Middle East and North Africa. So when I moved here, actually, I was looking to join my family, the Canadian Red Cross. So I joined, and I think I chose the right choice.
Yeah. So it was a natural fit then for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Yazid, for you, you know, you're a newcomer here.
Yeah.
Why become a volunteer?
Well, as a newcomer, we're always encouraged to volunteer when we land in Canada to get exposure about the country, the knowledge, the skills, and the experience. Because as a newcomer, you lack experience of the Canadian market. And one of the ways that you acquire such experience and knowledge is by dedicating some of your time to do volunteer efforts. So as a result, when I came to Canada, I started looking and searching for volunteer opportunities, and I landed at the Volunteer MBC website. So I had an interview, and then I went again on the website to find the Red Cross volunteer ad.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I usually see the Red Cross logo on TV when a disaster hits, so why not dedicating or get involved in such disaster management situations? So I applied, I was interviewed by Sarah, and now I'm on board.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm wondering about some of your experiences in the field, because you know that's sometimes, depending on how serious it is, it can be, you know, perhaps a little bit troubling or maybe even traumatic for some. Can you tell us about one of your experiences that you've had in the field?
You mean the bad experiences or the good experiences?
Either or. You know, what's most memorable to you that perhaps, you know, left perhaps a positive effect on you?
Actually, it's not only one story. It's the whole stories of when you help the people, and they give you this thanks, and they feel somehow great, like they feel grateful for you, and they give you like this hug at the end. This is what you want to get only. satisfaction from helping the others, and feeling that you are a positive person in this community. So this is what you are waiting for from volunteering, when you help these people who are really in need, and maybe one day you will be one of them. So this is when you are a part of this circle of helping each others, you feel that you are satisfied, and this is what you are waiting to get.
And Yazid, what would you say to someone who's perhaps considering volunteering with the Canadian Red Cross? What advice would you give them?
I strongly encourage any person or any newcomer to dedicate some of his time or her time to volunteer with the Red Cross. For me, the Red Cross, like I come from different backgrounds, experience levels, and experience types. The Red Cross for me was the place, or is the place, where I was able to group all this experience and put it in one place to help the vulnerable people in Canada. Whether that experience was in warehousing or logistics or public relations, business development, you can pick all these experiences and put them in one place, in one situation where a disaster is happening.
Okay. And Sarah, so I guess, do you yourself have any specific experience with dealing with the disaster management program? I mean, how you got involved with the Canadian Red Cross?
For me, I did my schooling in disaster management, and so I was really looking to get involved through that avenue in the humanitarian sector, so it was a really natural fit for me in the organization. So I've been in this role for about 1.5 years now, and it's been really rewarding. I've been able to work on small-scale and large-scale disaster operations with volunteers from all across Canada, and even some American Red Cross volunteers as well. So like Basil mentioned, it really is an international community of volunteers who support each other. It's great.
And so where can people sign up if they want to volunteer with the Canadian Red Cross?
On the website, www.redcross.ca, there's lots of information about the disaster management program. There's some stories that you can read about, like the big ones we've seen in the last couple of years, the southern Alberta flooding, the recent ice storm that we saw last winter, and how it kind of impacted our communities, especially locally here. So you can read more on the website about some of those stories and the specific email addresses and phone numbers for the local branch here.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today and speaking with us and sharing your story and all your information. And we're just going to actually wrap it up for now, and hope you can join us next time on I Care, I Volunteer.